Hello, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we'll be looking at Oku Trade, which is a wrapper on top of Uniswap contracts on Nibiru chain. So let's go ahead to Oku Trade, and initially we'll see, just like with other dApps, we're on the main deployment, which is the Ethereum deployment. So let's go ahead and click the network selector and switch to Nibiru, which is at the bottom left. Now, once we've switched to the Nibiru deployment, let's go ahead and connect our wallet. Today I'll be using MetaMask. Okay, great. And now also we're on the default swap page. There's a few interesting things you can do here. A swap is just, the same as any other DEX, but an interesting feature is that we can bridge our assets. So rather than using Stargate directly, we can go into Oku Trade. And for example, if we wanted to bridge over USDC from Ethereum, we could do so directly to Nibiru and vice versa. Today we'll be mostly looking at liquidity provisioning, so we won't bother too much about the swap features here. Okay, let's go to pool. And so here we can see the entire interface for the pool manager. So we can look at, this is the 3% fee USDC EW Nibi pool. Here's the liquidity depth across the order book. Okay, to provide liquidity, let's go ahead and click back on this this toggle under Uniswap v3 and look at our position manager. So the default pool here is WNIBI USDCE. To change the pool, there are a few ways you can do this. You can either click on this toggle here and then select the pool. So today, let's look at providing liquidity for the USDCE ST Nibi pair. We already see it here, but for example, if we did not see the pool, we could search for the pairs, right? So we have the ST Nibi paired with WETH, USDCE, and wrapped Nibi. The second way you can do this is that there is a search bar up here. We could do the same thing. So we could type in ST Nibi, and then we can see where the pool of interest that we're looking for is the USDCE ST Nibi pool. And this is the pool that we're going to provide liquidity towards today. Okay, now that we're on this page, you see this pool interface, and so let's zoom all the way out, and we can see this is the distribution of liquidity within this pool, where the midpoint is the current price of the pool. So we see the current price is 0.0172 USDCE per ST Nibi. To provide liquidity, we can either use this interactive graph, so to speak, and then we can drag a range. So we can say okay, we want to provide liquidity within range, so we want to cover left of the midpoint as well as the right of the midpoint. If we wanted wider liquidity, we would drag a wider range. If we wanted tighter liquidity, for example, we could drag a tighter range. Of course, this depends on your trading experience. The tighter ranges, the more often you'll have to rebalance. As a pretty basic or as a newer user towards concentrated liquidity positions, I would recommend that you do a wider range. So we can do this either in a few different ways. We can use this slider, for example, and we can drag our ranges. We can also enter in into these two boxes our endpoints for our range. So today, let's do 0.01, and then the max price, let's say we'll provide liquidity up to 0.03. Okay, so we see that our endpoints have been set to 0.01 and 0.03. If you want to do full range liquidity, for example, you could just do 100%. It makes it a little bit easier. Tighter ranges obviously would be closer to the midpoint. But yeah, today let's provide full range liquidity, or more so full range liquidity. We can either select here to either choose the amount of ST Nibi or the amount of USDCE, and it will auto-populate in the other box how much of the other asset we need to pair for that position. So let's go ahead and deploy 2 USDCE, which would require about 71 ST Nibi. Okay, so we see our MetaMask transaction request. If this is your first time interacting with a pool, you'll have to approve the spending caps first, but I've already interacted with Oku before, so we're just going to go ahead and mint this position. Okay, great. So it looks like our position has been deployed. We can see that the position is currently in range. We can see the token amounts of the USDCE and the STNIB in our position. Of course, as this pool is traded against, these values will change, but the total value of our position is $2.21. Okay, great. And so to the right, we see these little ellipses. We can click this and claim our fees. For example, once the pool has been traded against, we'll proportionally earn a share of the trading fees. We can transfer the position. So this would be, for example, if I wanted to give my LP position to someone else, I would transfer them that NFT that denotes my position, or I could edit the position. So let's look at edit position. If we click on edit position, we can increase, of course, it preserves the ranges, right? So it preserves our liquidity parameters. We could either increase the position to add more liquidity, or we could decrease the position. And so, of course, doing a 100% decrease in position is exiting your position. So let's look at increasing the position by another $1 of USDCE. Okay, and now that that's been successful, we can see that our front end updates us with the new liquidity position. And so if we wanted to create, for some reason, another liquidity position, we could go back into the Oku trade interface and find this pool and then specify a new range, and it would display our new position below. So you can have multiple positions per liquidity pool, just depending on the parameters of your liquidity provision. But yeah, I hope that helps. It's pretty, again, if you're not familiar with concentrated liquidity, it can be a little intimidating, but it's quite easy to use. So I'll see you again for the next tutorial. Thank you for listening.